Yeah, so our target audience that we're trying to help and support are people that are either brand new or have just got started with just a couple properties, and they want to start getting comfortable because a lot of people will buy multiple books, listen to tons of podcasts, and then they get into that analysis paralysis and they just get stuck and they just don't know what to do next. There's a lot of people out there that have 3, 4, 5, 6 properties that don't need our help, but sometimes they think that they do. And those aren't the people we really want to talk to. And so by other people like yourself being able to watch videos like this to see that there's people just like them that can get started, they just don't know where to start. I think we can really help show other people out there what they can do. Sometimes people are just limited by their mindset.
Okay. I actually got one property early this year. So just an FYI.
Okay.
Still a beginner. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have one property, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Tell us a little about how you got that property.
So I've been researching from 3 years. So I missed that low interest rate boat. I finally talked to myself, just make it happen. So on Feb 2023, I researched a property in Florida. I mean, I've been talking to real estate agents there from a while, but I just took the step. I'm like, okay, I'm going to experiment this and try it out and just, there is already a renter over there. So I just inherited the renter. So it became easier for me to not worry about payments and all. So the renter is going to vacate this December, but after that, I have to see how I'm going to remotely manage that, put that property, for rent. How am I going to repair and all that? So those things are still bothering me. So yeah, that's one of the question I have actually. Should I buy local or should I continue
So
investing remotely? Yeah.
where do you currently live?
I live in Illinois.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you live in Illinois and you bought in Florida. And
Yeah.
so one of the things out there right now is with software and social media, it is pretty easy to self-manage from afar. So we own 6 and they're all probably within a 20-minute drive distance, but based on the um, different systems that we put in place, we feel comfortable we could buy anywhere as long as we could put those same systems in place there. We don't visit our properties very often, and we don't do any of our own maintenance. Um, we use an app called Rent Ready. Have you ever heard of that?
Yes. Yes.
So, and it's actually sponsored by Bigger Pockets. They rave about it. And so we use that, and that I think they just increased the fee to what was it? Is it $40 now?
Maybe.
I think it might be $40 now,
Not sure.
but the tenant pays that in the screening process, and it gives you a credit score, an eviction history, a criminal history.
Okay.
And then the tenant can also pay rent through the app, and it costs them $1 each time they pay rent. And the way I like to spin it to my tenant is if you get a money order, a stamp, and an envelope, it's going to cost you way more than $1. And then you have to mail that out early so that way it's here on time so you don't have any late fees, to where like our tenants can pay at 11:59 on the first and rent still on time.
Yeah, that sounds great. That is good. But do we not show them the property because I'm living remote?
So what you can do is there's a couple different ways you can go about this. You could get a local realtor and talk about some kind of compensation for them to show the property for you. Because what we do is we actually require any tenant that wants to see our properties to fill out the application first.
Okay.
Because I didn't used to do that, and I would go there and I would show them the property and everything, and I would waste all this time, and then they would be like, I was just evicted last month.
Right.
Or I only make $1,000. Well, the rent's $1,200 and I require 3 times the monthly income and then proof of income. So I had an open house where 100 people told me that they were going to come through Facebook message. I literally talked to 100 different people. I counted afterwards. They all said that they were going to come. 3 people showed up. All 3 of them did not meet my expectations. So I sat in a hot house for over an hour and it was just a waste of my time. So we kind of pivoted. A French reference. I can't help but to laugh every single time I say pivot. So we changed it, and now we do require them to fill out that application. I don't necessarily make them pay the fee, but I need the initial information. I need proof of income and things like that. So that way, and I always explain, I don't want to waste your time and I don't want you to waste my time. So I require this stuff first. And when I explain it, the people who aren't serious about the property, they leave and I never hear from them again. The people who are serious will fill it out and they don't have a problem with it.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you very much for that tip.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm thinking the same thing then. Maybe I'll just have them fill the form. If they meet the basic requirements, then I'll talk to a local person or somebody, like I have to figure out who.
Yeah, so a lot of times you can have a contract with a realtor just to show it, because a realtor is licensed and they're obligated to make sure they're doing it right, or they could lose their license. So that's a protection that you have. Another thing that you could do is go to Facebook Marketplace, ask who people use for their local maintenance man in this area, and then have people give references. And then you could use that maintenance man to show you the property while also being the maintenance man for the property. So for like us, we have 2 different maintenance men that we use depending on what the situation is. And we either have them meet the tenant or we give them keys to the property, and we don't actually have to go and meet them there and waste our time.
And pretty safe.
Oh yeah, I don't have any, I've never had any problems with it. The maintenance man that we use is actually, I think he's the manager of one of the main
apartments.
Basically they buy houses, they flip houses, one of the big conglomerates for real estate up here. Like he runs a lot of the properties. And so we actually had him do some work on our that's another thing we do. I mean, obviously you won't be able to do it investing from afar, but when we do locally, we have people come work on our own house as like a trial, and we see that work before we then send them out to our rental properties. But yeah, you could reach out and then see. A lot of places have like handyman places that you can find. It's actually starting to become like a new thing where they're like licensed, or they're like handyman, and it's actually ran through an LLC. And you could have them show the property and then set up the maintenance man. Because the reality is, all you need in your back pocket is a handyman, an HVAC guy, an electrician, and a contractor. Once you get those 4 people, they can pretty much tackle anything you need to get done. And if you get if you're self-managing and you get a call at 2 a.m. for a plumbing issue, you already know who you're going to call. So you're not scouring Facebook or, the yellow pages.
Yes.
The yellow pages exist?
No, I just showed my age talking about the yellow pages.
I have to find those contacts. Some real estate agent gave me 2 contacts, but I tried to leave them a message when one of the pipe broke. Like, it's a small pipe in the washing machine, but still, like, they didn't respond. So what I requested renter is to find somebody local herself, and she did find, and but I do have to find somebody authentic like that who can stick with me forever and help me out as needed. Yeah.
And then, I mean, you could always try to find a property manager, which then does everything for you, but then they're going to take it. Property managers are usually anywhere from 8% to 15%.
Florida is crazy. I have to investigate, but yeah.
It's anywhere, I mean, around here, it's anywhere from 8% to 15%, but a lot of times they'll also keep the first month's rent. If they're placing the tenant, which can be a significant, like if they keep your first month rent, that could be your cash flow for the year.
Yeah.
Especially with the way interest rates and things are right now. And if you don't have a lot of equity into the property and you're new to it, the cash flow is usually minimal. So to give up that large chunk is difficult.
Yeah. And especially if I go for 6-month rent, then it's like I have to pay twice. Right. So if I go for 1 year rent, then that's better than 6 months rent. And
because you're not paying the property manager as much.
Twice, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That's very helpful. I'll look into those options. And then do you guys have LLC? I don't have LLC. Like, people are suggesting it's better to get, and they're so expensive. That's another $400, $300.
So LLCs, a lot of people listen to these gurus, and gurus tell you to get an LLC. They're not, they are, for the most part, they can be overrated. And that's because, so in an LLC, it protects you against the liability of anything that's in that LLC. So hypothetically, say you put your property in Florida into an LLC and something happens and you get sued for negligence of that property, they can only go after the money that's in that LLC. They can't go after your personal property. They can't go after your bank accounts. They can't go after your 401ks or your primary residence. But the reality of it is there's only a benefit of an LLC if you have large amount of equity into these houses. You want to separate them out. But if you don't, then it's not necessarily. And then if you put properties in an LLC, you can no longer buy it with a conventional loan. You then have to use a business loan, like a DSCR loan, because now an LLC is considered a business entity and you cannot use conventional financing. So you lose out on like the ability to do like an FHA, a rural development, and then like your conventional loan, because you can have 10 conventional loans per person. So like if depending on what your DTI, your debt to income, you and your husband can each have 10 conventional loans apiece, which they're going to give you your best financing when it comes to like 25% down and the lowest interest rate. To where like a business loan, those can be 10, 15, 20, 25. They do get up to 30, but there's certain lenders that only go that far. But your standard business loan is usually 15 to 25. It all just depends on each lender, and it's going to be a higher interest rate than your conventional lending.
Oh, okay. So that's DSCR loan.
DSCR loan is a business loan, and what they do is they don't look at your debt to income. They don't look at your job and how much money you make. They look at the property as a business entity in itself. And based on the rents of that property, can it pay for itself? And that's what a DSCR loan is. But a lot of DSCR loans could have, some of them are 25 years, some of them have balloons. It all depends on like which one you sign up for. So you have to just double check and see what the lending entity will offer.
Awesome. Thank you very much. That's
they do work if you're struggling with debt to income. Like if you have if you don't have a W-2 job, but like you're subcontracted or anything like that, the DSCR do work for people who can't prove income, because you're just proving the income of the property.
So that's one advantage. Got it.
Yep.
Yeah, I've heard about DSCR in one of the Instagram scrolls, but I didn't investigate more on that. I do feel that I have a crunch for down payment for my next conventional loan. So I was wondering like what strategies I have to use and all. Some people are saying seller financing and all that, but I haven't tried. I don't know where to look for those, like Zillow or Redfin. They don't tell you automatically it's a seller financed property, right?
Yeah. So let's back it up, because seller financing is again something that's glorified that everybody talks about. Like you're going to talk to a seller and it's going to work. Seller financing is actually pretty difficult because if everybody was willing to seller finance, then there would be less lenders. There wouldn't be a need for it. People tend not to want to do seller financing because the liability that seller is now allowing you to either move into the house or have a tenant move into the house with the expectation that you're going to pay that mortgage. And then if you stop, you default on that mortgage, then they have to file court fees, or there's all kinds of court stuff to then reclaim the deed of that property and take the deed back. So a lot of people, then not only that, but they want that lump sum up front. If you're selling a house for $200K, after all your fees, the seller's going to get right around $180,000. But if they do seller financing and say you do 25% down, so they're only going to get $50K up front versus $180, and then they're going to get some interest over the years, but it's going to take them 30 years to get that lump sum. So it's if you can get it, it's great, but it's more difficult.
We've tried a couple of times and have been unsuccessful each time.
We've tried every single time right now to get some kind of seller financing, and people a lot of people are unwilling. Again, you can get people to do it. It's just you have to swing the bat 100 times to get one hit, and it just depends on how much energy you want to put into it and how much time. What are the other things I encourage people to see is sometimes people have funds that they don't know about. How long have you owned your primary residence?
From 5 years. We moved from another one to this one, but we sold that one for about 12 years old. But yeah,
about 2 to 3 years ago, there was a huge hike in equity in the market. So your house probably has a significant amount of equity into it.
Mm-hmm.
So you could do either a cash out refinance and pull out some equity out of your house to get additional funds, or you can do a HELOC. Do you know what that is?
I heard about HELOC. Yes, yes.
So a HELOC is a home equity line of credit, and it's a glorified credit card.
Oh, okay.
And what that does is hypothetically say, how much do you think your house is worth?
We bought it for 420. It's a townhome. I'm
Yes.
thinking it's around 500K, but there's a lot of repairs to do. I don't think it matters, right? Like,
Okay, so
there's probably some,
so say it's worth 500, and how much do you owe on it right now?
around 300,000.
So right now you have 200K in equity into that house. And so you could do a HELOC. Usually they'll do it up to 75% total of the property. So you could probably easily pull out $100,000 in a HELOC. And so what that money does is it goes to a bank account and it just sits there. And if you use it, you pay interest on it. If you don't use it, then it only costs you your initial fees to get that money. So you'll have essentially 100K that you can go and use whenever you want. Say you find a property around you that's 100,000, you want to go pay cash for it, you can go pay cash for that property. And then when you pay that HELOC back, you can continue to borrow against it. So it's kind of neat. Where like for a general mortgage, if you make a large payment on that, it doesn't change your payment because the amortization is built in on the initial loan. But with a HELOC, you're only charged interest on whatever you have currently borrowed. So say you have 100,000, you use 30,000 for a down payment of a house, you're only going to pay $30,000 in interest.
Mm-hmm.
And then say you get a bonus at work for 5,000 and you want to go take that 5,000 and put it towards that HELOC. Now you only have to pay interest on 25,000. And so you can borrow and pay back and borrow and pay back for basically as long until they close that loan.
I see. That's good. I'll definitely try that option then. Thank you very much. I
Yeah.
heard about HELOC. I didn't try. I do know that it probably will take the same interest rate like conventional mortgage, right? So same 7.5%.
HELOCs are normally a higher interest rate. I've heard they're
Oh,
up
yeah.
between 10 and 11%.
Oh, wow. Mhm.
But the thing again that benefits with a HELOC is, like if you go to a hard money lender and you want to buy a flip house and you just need 90K for a flip house, that hard money lender is going to give you a 15% interest for 6 months, and then they're going to want that money back. But with a HELOC, you're locked in at 10 or 11%.
That's much better.
And then you can pay that back either gradually over the cost of the HELOC, or you can pay it back immediately whenever you get the funds, or say you sell the property. So you have a lot of more flexibility with it.
Comparatively, it's better.
Yeah. I always tell people if you have a house and you're looking to buy and you want to invest right away, then I encourage the cash out refinance. If you're not really sure, but you want to have money set aside because you're looking into it, then do the HELOC.
Sure.
But it also depends, because right now you have 300,000 that you owe on that house. I'm willing to bet you have a pretty low interest rate on that 300K.
Yeah.
So you're going to want to do the HELOC for the most part, because if you do a cash out refinance, it refinances the entire mortgage. So you're going to pay a higher interest rate on the total amount of it. So you'd be paying, 7-8% on, 400K.
Okay, got it. So it's better to do it just for that equity amount.
Correct.
Okay, yeah, makes sense. Thank you so much. That's very helpful. So many tips you have given me. Thank you.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
then back to LLC. So will end of the year, will we have the same benefit as having an LLC?
Yes. So a lot of times people get it confused. There's slight differences with the tax benefits. There's a lot of the same benefits. There is a little bit difference with LLCs. You'll get a little bit more benefits, but it's not enough of a benefit to make it worth it. Again, I'm not an accountant. I'm not a CPA. I'm not a tax expert, but
Not at all.
we use a CPA, and it's funny. Like, I love my CPA, but he looks like who you think a CPA would. He, the glasses. He looks just total nerded out, and he's very pleasant, but he's good at what he does. And they have a program that they use that depreciates our property, so we get that tax benefit. And then because we work with them so well, and it's nice when you have a CPA, you just call them anytime you have a question. They don't charge you anything because they're your CPA.
Right.
And so I call all the time for what I think are stupid questions, like, hey, if I buy gift cards for my tenants on their birthday, can I write that off? And they're like, yep, that's something you can do. If I buy a gift basket when people move into the house, can I write that off? Yes, you can.
Nice. That's
And
cool.
so for us, because we self-manage our properties and we do it out of our house, we are able to write off quite a bit of stuff at our house. Like we had our bathroom remodeled, we had a new roof put on, we had to replace our front stairs. We were able to write off, I think it was like 30% of all of that work.
Awesome.
So like the bathroom cost us. So I think what he did is like he took the square footage of our house. He said, what room's considered your office? And then they took that square footage of what we consider our office, which is our living room. And he then divided it by what the square footage of that room by what the house is. And then he came up with a percentage for, so like we can write out part of our internet bill. We can write off
Consumers bill,
water bill, because
Awesome.
it's our office, like all the repairs we could write off, internet bill, cell phone bills, because we self-manage ourselves, we can write off a good chunk of that stuff.
all the miles to and from properties, going to look at properties, going to pay bills for properties. We have spreadsheets for all of that.
Oh, so we have to document everything, keep
Yes.
right for the end of the year. Okay, got
Yeah.
it. Because this is Florida, I did fly once. I
Mhm.
was wondering maybe it's not accounted because I don't have an LLC, but it is, right?
No,
So-
yeah, so that entire trip, that for Florida, your hotels, anything you did, that entire trip, it should be able to write off. Again, check with your CPA, but you should be able to do that. My CPA's even told me, like, if we have a bit, like we go look at a property, then we go out to dinner and we discuss, it's a business meeting, we discuss that we could write off that dinner.
Oh, okay, great.
And we tend to forget the receipts most of the time, but we
Yeah.
can write
Yes.
stuff off.
Mhm.
Oil changes for my car, I can write off part of a percentage of like oil changes. Maintenance is on my car, I can write off a percentage of it. We bought a used Chevy Trax last year, and we could actually, because we paid cash for it,
Mhm.
we could actually write off a part of that because that's the vehicle we use for the business.
So we don't need to have receipts, or we do need to
You
have.
do. You
do.
need documentation of everything to present to your CPA. And you also, I think you need to hold on to those for
7 years.
7 years, because at any point in those 7 years, you can be audited. And you
Ah.
just want to make sure. So what I guess I'll let you speak on how you do that.
Yeah, please.
I'm the spreadsheet holder. So we have a spreadsheet for every single one of our properties. And so I track everything for what's going out, what's coming in, security deposits. And so when we do our taxes, we just present those spreadsheets. And then I have files with all of our paper receipts. I have files on my computer for, receipts that maybe were sent via email. All of our miles are logged in a separate spreadsheet with like dates, how many miles, the locations. Because that was something we didn't do in the first year, is I was putting 30 miles, but I wasn't putting like the starting and ending points, which he advised us to do just in the event of us being pulled for an audit. Like it's very clear.
Now,
We started here, we went here, we came back to here.
Now our CPA doesn't want to see receipts. They don't want to see
No.
all that. They want to see our spreadsheets. But if the IRS was to audit us,
They're gonna want to see
they
the
want to
receipts.
see the actual receipts to prove it. Our CPA believes what we say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you so much. Yeah, I was like, I don't have all those receipts. Maybe those flight tickets and all. I do have credit card statements.
Yep,
Right?
And that works.
That
Yep.
works. Yep.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, and I know even with like our maintenance and all of that, like, everybody's busy and trying to catch up and mailing receipts and all of that. Like a lot of times they'll like cut a receipt, they'll take a picture of it and just send it to me. And then I just pay it and then put it in the drawer that it's paid. And then I have proof.
Because we pay all of our maintenance, man, for the most part.
Over like Venmo or something like that.
PayPal, just different things like that.
And then we get those transaction copies, and that works.
Because that's another way to track it, because Venmo, you can get your own receipt through them or through PayPal or whatever entity that you're using.
I do Zilly payments, like I did for the handyman or plumber that came in to change the pipe. I did a Zilly payment. I do have a statement from Bank of America, so probably that will help. Okay.
Yep, that's all can be wrote off because you're improving the property.
Awesome. This is very helpful. I'm very, very thankful for you guys.
Absolutely. And that's kind of that we're excited to be doing this. You're actually the first one. Because we really want to give back, because a lot of the I myself really learned a lot from like the Rookie Real Estate podcast and just the different things. And I don't know if you know this, but her and I were actually on the Rookie Real Estate podcast.
Yes, that's
Okay,
how
yeah.
I saw, and
Okay.
I followed you
And-
guys on
And
Instagram.
so like when we did that, kind of things on our social media blew up, and we're like, okay, this is kind of cool. Like we wanted to dive into this more, and we tried a few different things and they didn't work. And so our thought is, even if it doesn't work, we've helped one person at a time. And
Yeah.
that's why I wanted everything to be individualized versus like a group where multiple people are talking and listening. One-on-one, you can ask us specific questions to your specific situation.
Sure.
When we we started new. We started not knowing, scared to take the first step, not sure how to take the second step. And so now that we're educating ourselves, and we find that people are in the same position that we once were. And so it's kind of that full circle. He talks about the full circle moment.
Our first property was just an absolute train
Oh,
wreck.
it's awful.
Mine is like that too.
We
It continues to be a train wreck.
4 years to make that step.
We thought it was going to be like 8,000 in repairs, and it ended up being 28,000 in repairs, and it was bad. But we always say we would do it all over again because it's what got us started.
Mhm.
And then eventually I went and I got my real estate license, and just kind of everything has just kind of flown in the right direction since then.
That's
And
nice.
it's just a continuing learning experience.
Mhm.
So what is your next goals? Like, what do you want to do next?
So I'm a little concerned that this property that I got, once the renter moves out, I have to do a lot of repairs first, and then start, looking for another renter. Maybe find a real estate agent like you guys suggested, and then rent it out. Then once that is done, I have to figure out this HELOC and see if I can, look for another property. So that's my goal. Yeah.
So I would encourage you to start with the HELOC sooner rather than later, because sometimes it could take up to a month to get the appraisal ordered and different things like that.
Mhm.
And the fee shouldn't be much to get the HELOC. So maybe a couple grand. It shouldn't even be that much. Usually the appraisal is anywhere from $500 to $600. So I'd encourage you to start that process. So that way it's better to have money on hand if something comes up than to not have, or have something come up and then you miss out on an opportunity. We regret the houses we didn't buy. We've never regret any houses that we have bought. So it sounds like that's kind of where you're moving in, is to get the next money. And then I kind of wanted to talk about a little bit. Have you ever considered pulling money from a 401k?
I did think about it, but I haven't.
That would be something you would want to talk to your financial advisor to see what you can and see what the interest rate would be on that, or what they would charge you. Because I know a buddy of mine pulled out of his, now this was what, 8-10 years ago when he started. He pulled about 120 out of his to get started, and basically he cashed out his entire thing and quit his job, and then basically went into real estate full time. And now he owns like 110 doors.
Awesome. Very good step then, right? So
Right.
So like he made that good choice. Now, if you do it right, I mean, you could be that same thing, but you have to. Anybody that tells you real estate's not a risk is going to lie to you. They're just trying to get you to buy some kind of program. I'm not going to tell you that it's not a risk, but if you educate yourself enough, you can mitigate those risks. And then the key is just keeping enough in reserves. Anything that comes up, you can fix with money. So it's just make sure you have enough reserves.
Yeah. So if we take out entire 401k, then 50% of it probably is gone for taxes, right? So that's or we can take the loan.
That's why I always encourage people to talk to your financial advisor and see what it would cost you, or what you can borrow, how much, what the fees are going to be, what the taxes are going to be. And just look at the risk with reward. You got to remember, when you invest in real estate, you make money several different ways. You have your cash flow, you have your natural appreciation, you have your forced appreciation. You know what natural appreciation is?
No.
So cash flow obviously is any money that you make a surplus over what it costs you to pay your bills, it's once you pay your, what is it, your
The-
taxes, your mortgage,
the
your
insurance.
insurance, and then you put away money for capital expenditures, maintenance, and vacancies. So the cash, once you do those like 6, 7 items, your cash flow is anything that's left over.
Mhm.
Forced appreciation is, say you go in and you add a bathroom somehow, or you put a new
You got a room.
you add a room, you put in a new bathroom because the other one was terrible, or you put a garage on it, anything you do to add money to it. So say you buy $100,000 property, you put 20,000 into it, and now it's worth 130,000. So you
Mhm.
forced appreciated 30,000 in equity into that property by what you did to it.
I see.
Then you have what's called the natural appreciation, which basically all houses appreciate about 2 to 3% a minimum every single year. Now, during COVID, that number jumped up to an astronomical like 10%, and people were getting ridiculous appreciation on their properties. That's why a lot of people were selling,
Wow.
because the market was really high. And that's why kind of the market's weird right now, because you have interest rates going up and you have properties also still going up.
Yeah.
Right now in society, we have an issue where we don't have enough houses for the people.
Mhm.
So they're trying to build, but we're not keeping up with with basically living. So I lost my completely.
It's still a good time to buy, you think?
I think if you find the right property, I think it's always a good time to buy, because now when the interest rates drop down to 3 and 4% again, everybody that's not buying right now is going to jump back into the market, and everything's going to go for 50K over asking because more people are in the market.
Yeah, I remember 2 years ago when I went to check out a house locally, there was this huge queue
Yeah.
Just to get in, right? It's crazy. It's not even open house. Yeah.
And so now, right now, you're not fighting with people to see houses, but it's just, it's expensive and it's hard to cash flow.
Yeah.
We always say, like, there's never a wrong or right time to buy. It's as long as the numbers make sense. Like, as long as we can look at it, we can sit down, we can figure everything. As long as it fits within like what we're comfortable with.
We call it our buying box. If it fits within our buying box, then we will buy it. And so you have to figure out what's comfortable. What is your buying box? What is the cash on cash return on an investment you want? What is the minimum cash flow you want? You have to figure out what makes you feel comfortable. And then the last thing I forgot to mention, and when you make money in real estate, is also the tenant buy down. So the tenant is paying your mortgage. So even if you don't cash flow on that property at all for 30 years, but the tenant pays down the mortgage, and then you have appreciation. So I always use like you buy $100,000 house, you don't make any cash flow. In 30 years, the tenant's now paid off the rest of that mortgage, and that house is probably now worth 200,000. So now you have a $200,000 asset that cost you 25,000 to close.
Makes sense. Yeah, I was wondering the same. So my first one is not cash flowing. The way you explained, so probably over the time, once I force appreciate it a little bit because it needs help anyway.
Yep.
It's a little distress, and then maybe over the time it will start cash flowing. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yep. And then theoretically, as the natural appreciation comes, the property value goes up, inflation goes up, rents go up with that. I mean, I'm 37. When I was renting at 25, you could rent a 3-bedroom, very nice apartment for like $900. Now for that same thing, it's $1,200-$1,400. So you look, rent's gone up, $400 in the term of 10 years. And it's going to even continue going up. When we first started dating, we rented a 3-bedroom house, and it was $600 a month for rent. That same house now rents for $1,200.
Oh my God.
So with inflation, it just doubles. So, and with real estate, a lot of times like Brandon Turner and David Green, they'll say like a property might not cash flow for the first few years, but years 3, 4, and 5, it starts cash flowing. But in years 1 and 2, your tenant still paid your mortgage and covered all the maintenance fees. So it didn't cost you anything those 2 years. You're just maintaining it. And real estate's a long game. You're not going to get rich in a few years. You might get rich in 5 years, maybe 10 years, but it takes time, because the major money made in real estate is in the equity of the property. It's not in the cash flow. it's in the equity of the property eventually when you resell it or when you refinance it.
So
I
that's
think-
why location is so important.
Correct.
Buy.
So
Okay.
like class C and D neighborhoods tend to cash flow higher because there's more risk of people not paying their bills. They're more dangerous neighborhoods. The schools aren't as good, but they're not going to appreciate. Where class A and B neighborhoods are going to appreciate at a higher level, but they might not cash flow as well.
Yeah, makes sense. So I compared Nashville also. Nashville, the houses are so high, but the rents are very low. So one of my cousins lives there. So I went there and I checked out. I love the music downtown, but when I look at the properties in Zillow, they're so high, but the rents, well, if we want to rent it out, it's very low. So I was thinking like, is it even worth buying there? So
Yeah,
from
and
what-
I right now have a couple clients out of California that I work with that buy properties here because they have the same problem. And they actually we close next week on a duplex. They bought a duplex here for 90K.
Where are you guys from? Sorry, I forgot
It's
to.
Central Michigan.
I see. Okay.
And so they're gonna buy a duplex for 90K and it'll do pretty well for them. And they're like duplexes in California are like $400,000. And so they're like, it's crazy that you can get a property like that around here. And so our most expensive property that we bought was 89K.
That's it.
Yeah. It
So
was
I'm-
it was a 2-bed, 1-bath, 1,200 square feet. It was with an attached garage, a huge backyard, just gorgeous.
Well, that was Philadelphia, right?
Yep.
What was Chatterton? Wasn't Chatterton?
88.
Oh, was it?
So it's
Okay.
1K.
Yeah.
Yep.
Duplex is nothing but a multifamily.
We own all single family. We don't own any. Oh yes, a duplex is a multifamily. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I was missing- Yep.
Right. Okay. So because they are 89,000, probably 20% down pay is not so bad. It's like 16,000, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
You're out the door with about 20K after you have all your
your
other fees and closing costs and stuff like that.
Awesome. Maybe I should try that out too. Like, but again, property management and all that, those costs will add. How about the rents over there in Michigan? Are they good?
I mean, in our area, we enjoy it. Right now, like there's certain areas, like in anywhere, there's areas where I would invest and there's areas I wouldn't touch. I mean, we are 45 minutes from Saginaw, which is one of the most dangerous cities in the world.
Okay. Wow.
And so I work in Saginaw as a case manager. We don't go that way. But if you go out our driveway and you take a left instead, everything that way is very nice. And that's where and you also have to look at where you're investing, what's around the area, what supports the real estate in that area. For ours, there's a hospital, there is
college.
there's a college. So those two things are recession proof. There's a correlation with cities that have a Walmart in it and appreciation. They tend to appreciate higher. Look at anything that puts a new Starbucks in. Starbucks has a whole team that does research.
For like up and coming area.
Yeah, before they place a Starbucks in, and they just placed a Starbucks there. And so Starbucks can do the research for you a lot of the times.
Find out where they're going in.
So there's just a lot of things that you can kind of do. Like, is the population increasing? What is the net salary for like the surrounding area?
How are the school systems is another big one.
Yep.
So we've gotten really lucky with all of our properties. Like they're all in very good areas. We've got a couple really close to the school. We've got one really close to the college. So we're very mindful of that. Like I work in one of the locations that 5 of our rentals are at.
Yep.
And so like I'll hear the address and I'll be like, oh yeah, that's a really good area, or not so good, that's a flood zone. Or so it's helpful when you're also familiar with the area. Where in Florida is your current rental at?
Miami Beach. We went for a vacation. We fell in love with it. South Miami Beach is where it is. It's 180K.
Have you
So
considered making it like would it work as a short-term rental?
no, they don't allow short-term rental.
Okay.
It's a very old building. I didn't even see that property. I fell in love and I went for a vacation and that's it. Then I thought we should just have a condo here. After we retire, we can just stay.
We-
So that was the initial thought. Yeah.
We say the same thing with Traverse City here. We want to own a house on the water in Traverse City, but everything there is like
Ridiculous.
600K plus. So that's our ultimate goal, is eventually to head up there and then do a short-term rental part of the year and then live there the other part of the year.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah, so that property is like that. So I have to do a lot of upgrades to it. But I do know that location, like it's so close to the mall and the surroundings are great. You can just walk to any place. It's a very small place, right? South Miami Beach. And the realtors over the time also educated me. Like I've been researching from 2 to 3 years. They got frustrated. They gave me all the input, but still I didn't dare to take the step when the interest rates were low. But I did have enough information, So that was the thing.
So one of the other things I always like to touch base on with people is truly understanding your finances. This is your personal finances. So everybody has what's called fixed expenses and then variable expenses. So your fixed expenses are the expenses you have every single month, your mortgage payment, your insurance, your cell phone, your internet, just consumers, anything that's considered a fixed expense which is the same amount every single month. And then your variable expenses, how much you spend on groceries that much, what's on your credit card, how much you go out to eat. I use the term cash flow. So cash flow is the amount of money you have left over after you paid both your fixed expenses and your variable expenses every month. You should know how much you cash flow extra. So how much you make between your rentals, your W-2 jobs, your husband's W-2 job, how much money you make every single month. You should be able to know how much money you're going to have extra 1 month from now, 3 months from now, and then 1 year from now, because that allows you to plan ahead on what you can do.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
And so like create some kind of spreadsheet and figure out, I'll give you a little bit of a backstory. So I work a lot. I have like 4 or 5 different jobs. I get very stressed out. And there was one day I kind of lost it and I came home and I said, Danny, we got to fix this. Like, I can't continue doing this. Like, I'm going to go nuts. So we put the kids in front of the PlayStation. We went and locked ourselves in the bedroom and we literally wrote down all of our expenses from the smallest to the biggest. And then we figured out how much income we have coming in every month. And we figured out we are making so much extra money every month compared to what our bills are. Why am I stressing out and trying to kill myself working these ridiculous amount of jobs and hours? And it's like, okay, I can scale back now because we make 6K extra a month or we make 8K extra a month. And it varies but we know the baseline minimum, we're going to make a 6K surplus every single month.
So budgeting is really important, right? Like I'm very bad at that.
And the reason behind it is because say you have $100,000 in your HELOC and then you have $30,000 in your bank and you have 2 properties that you want to buy and they're both 50 grand, but you're like, oh man, that 30,000 is enough. If you know that, okay, I make 5 grand extra a month or 10 grand extra a month, you can take that a little bit of extra risk and skate yourself thin because you know that you have this money coming in each and every month. So for us, there was a point where we got down to 10 grand, I think it was, which is scary because it's 12 grand for a roof, an HVAC system is 5 grand. But because we knew that we had a huge lump sum coming in with what we had built up for that month, we didn't care that we dropped down to that low. So it allows you to take a more proactive risk in getting the properties you want to get.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. I'll definitely look into it. So that's helpful. Yeah, that's what I was trying to think. Where should I get the money from? So I haven't sat down and I didn't figure out the budgets and all. So W-2 income. I didn't do that. I think I should start
It's a great place to start. Yeah.
Exactly.
Because when we did it and Danny sat down and we looked at the numbers, it's like there's no point of rushing things or being stressed. Because sometimes you're doing way better than you think you are. And you just don't realize it.
Yeah, I think so. Thank you. That's really encouraging. I'll definitely look into it. Yeah, so those are the only things. I really appreciate you guys for your time. So please tell me, how can I thank you back? So is there any way I can be in touch and also, yeah.
The only thing we would ask and we'd appreciate is just give us a follow on our YouTube channel
Sure.
and subscribe to it. And then once we post the video, if you want to share it on your social media, that we would appreciate that. We don't need anything give back. We just kind of want to grow our social media platform. And then if you have any friends that are also looking to invest that are in your same situation, encourage them to reach out to us.
Definitely. I do have a couple of friends. I'll do send them to
Okay.
you guys.
Yeah,
So
we would greatly appreciate that.
sure, I'll definitely do that. I'll follow your YouTube channel. So let me know what it is and I'll subscribe and yeah.
All right.
I
Will
get-
do. Any last questions?
I think this is pretty much it. It's money crunch that I have right now. So
Yep.
I'm gonna figure out HELOC, budgeting, and all that great stuff.
Mhm.
Thank you for clearing out LLC is not so important. So I was debating if I should get one or not. So that is really helpful. That's an important point. CPA, my CPA is pretty much getting very old. He's
Mhm.
80 plus right now. I'm looking for newer CPAs. I'm not sure if your CPA can help me out as well. If
Ours is just local.
local, okay.
Michigan, yeah.
Yeah.
So then I have to go find another CPA and figure out all these things. So, but so glad to hear that I can even write off, all these expenses. So now I have to start a spreadsheet, document everything. So
We're
that's when
creating more work for you.
but still it is helpful. It
Yeah.
gives me assurance that I can do some of the things on my own and I
Yeah.
can, go ahead and look for another one. So this is really helpful. Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah,
Awesome.
absolutely welcome. Good luck.
Yeah, thank you. Have a
You're
great
welcome.
rest of the day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
I don't know.
Bye.
This is all you.